Boom. This is what's blowing me away, y'all. 2020 will go down in history as one of the weirdest years of my life. I was talking to an 85-year-old man last night at the hospital, and we just started talking. You know, his daughter's a doctor, trained at East Tennessee State University, worked in Chattanooga, now works back here in Nashville. And we're talking about this pandemic, this whatever you want to call it. I'm just blown away at how mass media, mass hysteria, mass propaganda works on the minds of men. You know, it's one thing to go start a war using the false pretense of 9/11, which, you know, if you look at the facts and the hard science of it, clearly it wasn't what they said it was, and there were explosives used to bring down those buildings, especially World Trade 7. However, that's fine. I'm not an architect and engineer, but I listen to architects and engineers, and they're the ones that pointed that out. Now, when it comes to medicine, I've been a nurse for 22 years. I've been at bedside for 22 years. I have worked on the sickest of the sick. I'm talking spit on, pissed on, shit on, bled on, thrown up on, coughed on. In fact, I was on the COVID unit just the other week and had a woman cough all in my face, and I was like, I never got COVID-19. The simple fact of the matter is there's over 200 viruses that cause respiratory illness that we know of. You know, in the past, people would come to me as a nurse, man, I've been sick. Anything going around? And so many things do go around, whether it's a stomach bug, a cold bug, or whatever. But again, there's over 200 viruses that cause respiratory distress. 15% of those that we know of are coronaviruses. Okay? Now, how many times in the past have you been sick? Did you run off to go get a nose swab? You didn't. You went to the drugstore, you went to the cold and flu aisle, you stayed home, hopefully, unless you had bills to pay, and then, of course, you worked through it. The rule in my house growing up was, you'd wake up and you're like, I don't feel like going to school. If you didn't have a fever, you were getting on the bus, runny nose, whatever, and that's just the way it was. And it just blows me away. We find ourselves in 2020, 21, and suddenly we're scared to death of a virus that has a 99.97% recovery rate. My mind is totally blown. It doesn't compute. Again, on any given day, any of us as human beings can have a bad cold, a mild cold, a bad flu, a mild flu, a bad stomach bug, or a mild stomach bug. And it's been that way for thousands of years and will continue to be that way. And if you think 200 vaccines for 200 variants of a cold bug are what you need, then you're not thinking properly. Okay? This whole thing with Bill Gates and Dr. Fauci, they both belong in prison. If I saw either out in public, I'd have very choice words for both of these gentlemen. It just blows me away. And I'm really upset at the legal community last year as well as the medical community last year. And I'm blown away at the TikTok dancing nurses and the young nurses that don't get it. They've bought into it. Everybody running around with masks and goggles and gloves and blah, blah, blah. Dude, I could walk right up into the virus and don't get the virus. Just because you come in contact with a virus, which you do all day long, does not mean that you're going to get sick. This is the biosphere. I've explained this before. This is the biosphere. We live in the biosphere. It's no different than going into the woods in the summertime, and you got chiggers, and you got gnats, and you got biting flies, and you got ticks, and you got bugs you can't even see, and sand fleas, and yada, yada, yada. That's just on that level. On the microscopic level, it's probably 10, 20 times fold. You could take a black light and spray this room, and there's bacteria everywhere. You don't believe? Smell my armpits. Smell your shoes. So it just blows my mind that the television has been able to pull this off. Of course, they pulled 9/11 off. They pull a lot of stuff over a lot of people who aren't willing to critically think, and that's just it. They're programmed. They call this programming. Television is programming. I turned my television and cable off, 4 years ago after the last election, after it went total Soviet. Now it's really gone total Soviet. The banks and the corporations, $26 trillion in debt. Not once has anybody questioned, well, what's a dollar? Well, a dollar is 1 troy ounce of silver stamped on a coin. It's a silver dollar. And we're supposedly 26 trillion of those in debt. So here's how you do the math. If 1 troy ounce of silver stamped in a silver dollar now trades for 25, 26, 27, 29 Federal Reserve notes, do the math, multiply that out. Are there really $26 trillion in the world, or is this all fictitious and on paper? It is. And that's the power that the banks have, not only over the politicians and the whole system, but since they own the media, they got the minds too, man. And now a word from our sponsors. Ask your doctor, which coronavirus shot is right for you? I do Alka-Seltzer Cold Plus, and I have for years. So people need to wake up. The kids need to be back in school. Our politicians are about as dumb as the rest of the people they represent, and it's sad. Peace.